Good evening and welcome to episode 97. As always, we'll start with our gratitude attitude. So, if you would please gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, relax your muscles. Take another deep breath. As you exhale, see all your stress melt away. Take one more deep breath. As you exhale, completely let yourself go. Now, think of one thing that you're thankful for that happened in the past week. Once you identified that, think about why you are thankful. And now let's set it free. If you are by yourself, say it out loud what you are thankful for and why. If you are with someone, tell it to each other. Okay, so over the last two sessions, we were discussing inherent existence. For the next couple of sessions, I want to discuss a very deep and profound subject called emptiness. Before we talk about emptiness, we need to understand what is not. Emptiness is one of the most misunderstood concepts in spirituality. It doesn't mean nothingness. It doesn't say nothing exists at all. But it does say that all phenomena is empty from its own side. And that's a key distinction here. Meaning it doesn't have a separate and independent existence. Now, if you look in the dictionary, you know, English language will tell you emptiness means loneliness. But that's not the case. In Sanskrit, emptiness is called shunyata. It is the true nature of all phenomena. It means there is something, and that something is ready to take any form that is necessary. So there's a huge difference between emptiness and nothingness. And it's a tough concept to grasp, and different people grasp it different way. So I'm going to try and get this explanation in two distinct ways. So first, we're going to look at a physical way of looking at emptiness. But before we look at that, we need to understand how space is defined. So there are two types of space: produced space and unproduced space. What do I mean by that? So let's take an example. A bird's flying through an empty sky. No problem, it just flies through it, easily moves through it. The space you can easily move through is called produced space. Let's look at another example. Let's say there is a brick wall. Try to get past that, right? You're not going to walk through a brick wall. The space that occupies the brick wall is called unproduced space. What does that mean? Let's say we tear down the wall. The space where the wall used to be is known as unproduced space. One cannot go through unproduced space, right? It's just not possible. Let's look at another example. Let's say there is an empty room, right? You can pass through it. So that empty room, the space in that empty room is called produced space. Now let's say we put a chair in that room. So now chair is occupied in the room. You can't go through it, right? Without getting hurt. But the space where the chair used to be, if you remove the chair, the space that chair occupies is called unproduced space. The space occupied by the chair is the emptiness of that chair. Another thing to keep in mind is the chair and the space which the chair is occupying, the space that used to be there, are one and the same. They are not separate phenomena. They are non-dual. And this is a very important point. Another example is, what Sadhguru always talks about. He always says, let's say there are two balloons. You have a balloon, I have a balloon. You call your balloon, my balloon's my balloon. My balloon's green, your balloon's red, whatever. My balloon, your balloon. Now let's say we push a needle into both of these balloons. Poof, it's gone, right? Now the air where those balloons used to be, would you call it your air and my air? Of course not. You wouldn't call it green balloons air and red balloons air. No, you would not. That means that the space that fills the balloons, both balloons, is the same. And that's what I'm trying to get to, is the second part, which is non-physical part, is looking at the emptiness is like looking at the world without and adding or subtracting absolutely anything. What does that mean? Let's say we see a series of events through our eyes or in our head, in our thoughts, right? that brings some kind of feelings to us. Once that feeling shows up, we try to identify with that feeling and get wrapped up in the eye of that feeling. And that's what causes all of our suffering. The more we get involved in this drama, the more it sucks us in. And 99% of the time, it's just pure drama. But instead of getting sucked into the drama, if we look at those events from an emptiness lens and not react, but just observe, you will notice that the feeling is empty of anything to identify. The feeling is empty of anything to identify with. Just look at it as is, observe, and most of the time, right, if there is a fight going on, let's say somewhere, and if you are an observant, you can just, objectively tell who's right, who is wrong. If you're in that same fight, right? Now you're personally involved, your eye is involved. You're no longer objective. And that's what this is about. We clearly see this. We'll realize that labeling and identifying everything with our eye is the root cause of all our stress, anxiety, and so forth. When we drop the eye, we are free from all the drama. And I know it's a lot easier said than done. But it is the one key true happiness. So as you can see, the emptiness can be looked into different ways from different point of view. However, all of these lead to one single goal. And that is to get people focused on what is important as opposed to day-to-day thoughts of anger, attachment, jealousy, hatred, and so forth. If we look at the world from the emptiness point of view, our delusions will gradually decrease. Maybe we won't get as angry as smallest thing, or jealous of someone, or get, upset with attachment, and so forth. It will allow us to operate from a happy state of mind. A happy state of mind brings inner peace, allowing us to be aware. And an aware mind is a perceptive mind. And we talked about this before. That function of a mind is to perceive. Imagine what we can achieve if our perception is crystal clear, non-diluted. So that's the sermon for the day. In today's meditation, as always, we'll begin with a focus on our breath. Once we settle down, we'll try to imagine our mind is this deep ocean. And our thoughts are like waves on the surface of the ocean. Natural duration of thought is 1/60th of a second. 60 thoughts in a second. So if we don't pay attention to them, they'll subside on their own. Thoughts seem to be uncontrolled, but as we go deep in the ocean, there is stillness away from all the waviness. So let's try and focus on that stillness in our mind. If a thought arises, just acknowledge it. We won't chase it. And we'll stay in that stillness of our mind. That's the goal. So if you're ready, let's get into our meditation posture. Cross-seated position. If you're in a chair, keep your legs straight. Your back straight. Spine upright. Shoulders leveled. Gently close your eyes. Keep your mouth just a little bit open. That way, any stress you may have accumulated will dissipate on its own. Palms in your lap, right over left, thumbs gently touching each other. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, relax your body. Take another deep breath. As you exhale, see yourself totally relaxed, like a rag doll. Bring your attention at your nostril to the sensation of your breath. Feel the cool air as you breathe in. Feel slightly warmer air as you breathe out. Keep your attention at your nostrils for about a minute or so on your own. Now, bring your attention at your heart. Feel the peace of your root mind. Enjoy this peaceful moment at your heart. Let this peaceful moment bring the next peaceful moment. Remember, there is nothing to do, nowhere to go. Now, imagine your mind is a deep ocean. As you go deep in the ocean, there is complete stillness. Your thoughts are like the waves on the surface of the ocean. Waves come and they dissipate, just like the thoughts. a thought arises, just acknowledge it. Don't chase it. And it will dissipate. Keep your focus on the stillness of your mind. Again, if a thought arises, just acknowledge it. Don't chase it. Keep your focus on the stillness of your mind. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Any questions? Go ahead, Hital.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this subject. I don't have a specific question, but maybe a few more examples. We talk.
Of the produced space and unproduced space?
Yeah. I mean,
So look at it this way. Let's say there is a table, okay?
Mm.
And there is an insect walking on that table. When the table ends, the insect instinctively knows that, hey, I may fall down. It turns around, right? So it instinctively knows that, hey, there is a change in space. Because that's a space insect cannot go through. Now a fly can go through, right? So anything one can go through is a produced space, meaning there is no obstacle to it. Airplane goes through a sky, right?
Yeah.
No obstacle. So that is a produced space. If, on the other hand, if it's flying low enough and there's a mountain, right? It's not going to go through that mountain. It's going to crash,
Mm.
right? So that mountain is an obstacle. if you were to, let's say, dig that mountain and completely, blast it out, there was a space where that mountain used to be. That is unproduced space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it made sense. No?
And
Yep.
that is emptiness.
Mm.
As close to emptiness as one can explain. So, in day-to-day life, for example, um, you have a computer in front of you, right?
Mhm.
There's space. If you break that computer down, there's a space which is being occupied by that computer, which you are not able to see because there's a computer there, right? So that is unproduced space. That's also is emptiness of that computer. Okay, the two good books. If you want to read about this, one is a book called Ocean of Nectar, and another is called The Heart of Wisdom. The Heart of Wisdom is actually a commentary to what's known as Heart Sutra, which is the teachings Buddha gave near Bodh Gaya on some mountain. I forgot the name. Um, but that's a commentary on that. That book has a very um, basic description of this. Ocean Nectar has a whole chapter on this. Um, it gets pretty involved, but it's a good read. If you like dry reading, it's a good read.
Okay. Gonna try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
So,
Aditi,
uh,
please.
yeah. So, how similar this is to Sakshi Bhav in our culture, I guess, where we see, like, but we don't get involved. So, this is similar, right?
So
Little
I'm
bit.
not familiar with Sakshi Bhav, quite frankly.
Oh,
So I'm not qualified to comment on that.
okay.
But if the concept is that, hey, you don't get involved, you just watch this as if you're watching a drama, then I think it's a very similar concept,
Hmm.
right? I mean, all of this thing comes from Indian yogic culture, right?
Correct.
And what what they say is that, listen, don't put yourself in the middle of all these things, even when you're involved. So let's say you and I having an argument, right?
Okay.
And we are having an argument, but if you have presence of mind and you kind of look to yourself from up above, if you will, and watch you having an argument with me, you will have a different response than just getting involved emotionally into it. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Right?
definitely.
It's like, my daughter calls and says, this happened, right? Some garbage can got stolen or whatever, right? Say,
Hmm.
it's just a garbage can, pay $10, move on, right?
Hmm.
Uh, it's easy for you to say when you are not
That person.
personally vested, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Right? Because your eye is not in there. Now, if my eye was in there, then I may have got upset and say, hey, my garbage got stolen, whatever, right?
Hmm.
So that's the whole point, is that, hey, stay detached and your response becomes much more palatable, much more good for your own health, quite frankly, right? You don't get agitated anymore.
Yeah. So, think from the higher consciousness as best as you can, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You got it 100%.
Hmm.
So, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to stop recording.